We didn't. There's no game plan. We spent all this time on the camera angle, and I feel like there's a game plan. But
The game plan is Christmas.
the game plan is Christmas. I didn't even think to wear Christmas stuff today because it's not actually Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas is Monday, but
Mhm.
oh well. We have a tree.
And we're feeling holly and jolly.
We are feeling holly and jolly, but I guess we'll have less banter today, and we'll just run right to it. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. It is, of course, Thursday at noon, so it's Caucus Day, and we're here to pretty much just have a nice time for a Merry Christmas caucus. I mean, the Congress has shut down. Hallelujah. Like, they're not doing anything at the moment.
Hopefully they don't come back.
If they didn't come back, that'd be a good case to make.
That's what I asked Santa for.
That's what I asked. I just asked Santa to end the Fed, but audit the Fed and end the IRS. But we wanted to come and bring. There's still stuff to talk about, but we wanted to come and bring some lightheartedness and just wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Of course, we're going to talk to you next week before the New Year, but those two just go together. But as we were talking about stuff this week, we were just realizing, hey, there's family traditions and movies and music and things to do and things to eat and all the different things. We were kind of talking about that. I thought, why don't we just share that with you? So we decided to sit down and just kind of continue this conversation here with all of you on the live stream. So that's a good bit of what we wanted to do today, as a little bit of a lead up, since Christmas is just a few days away here. So that's where we're at, and we'll probably pick, us. Politics will get sprinkled in everywhere, no matter what we do. But that's
Joe Biden is the Grinch.
Joe Biden is Joe. Well, that's not entirely fair, because the Grinch had a plan.
You're right.
And enacted a plan. I'm not quite sure.
He's the Grinch with dementia.
I think maybe could Susan Rice be the Grinch?
Yeah.
And then, there we go. And then Joe Biden is just Max, the dog. Does that work?
That does work.
Can that work? Okay. I feel like that may be a little bit more, I don't know. It might be more accurate. Maybe it's mean. Not entirely sure. But we thought about that. We were talking about Christmas movies, what is and isn't Christmas, and some of the family traditions. And of course, we've all got, we've got multiple sides of the family, because there's your wife's family, my wife's family, and home life on our side, and all the different travel. So it's kind of nice. You get a lot of Christmases. So we've already actually had one Christmas, and the other Christmas is upcoming. So we're just, spreading it out. I don't know about you guys, but
I've had zero Christmases so far.
Zero Christmases so far? Wow, then all of this is just anticipatory for you. Yep. Okay, well, I figured we should run out there and settle pretty much the number one thing that all of you want to know about, as far as our opinions go on Christmas things and all things Christmas. Why is Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas the best Christmas song that does not annoy and should not annoy any of us?
I don't mind it. I've never felt so strongly about it, but I think it's groovy.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I didn't realize, and here I was going to try to spark some disagreement, all for Gwen's sake, because disagreement gets the ratings, we're told. But
some people hate it.
I know. That's really, man. That this year, I feel like I've seen that come up, and I'm, what's the problem? I hear that, and I know it's time. It's time. I've been released to go and do Christmas things.
Right.
But anyway, no, that's not.
Yeah, I really like everything Christmas. It's hard for me to find something I don't like that's Christmassy.
Is there a date? Is there a date that you're supposed to start, not before, supposed to start after? Like what, because I haven't told him this. I saw, though, I guess it was the Sunday after Thanksgiving, our pastor posted a picture of their Christmas tree that had gone up, and he said, I guess I give you permission to Christmas, or something like that. And I was just like, I'm pretty sure this does not fall under your authority as a ministry leader. I'm going to do this whenever I want, buddy.
Yeah.
But I found it funny, guys. Just, I enjoy it. I'm sorry. What's your dateline? Is there an unacceptable time?
June, probably.
I respect that answer. I respect, because that can incorporate Christmas in July.
Yeah.
Start at July 25.
I mean, I'm okay with September is usually when I'll start, letting a little Christmas cheer sprinkle in, but I won't go whole hog. It's Christmas time till usually just before Thanksgiving.
You can't go whole hog until the turkey's out of the way. But no, I agree with that. Our rule is the Burr months. Once you hit the Burr months, September, October, November, like fine, just a little bit in there, here and there. We'll get an itch for a Christmas song. So you let us know if you all have a date specifically. I have a lot of militant, no, not until December 25th. You all remember Jordan Henry, who was with us on the program for a long time. Jordan had, and I'm going to go ahead. I don't know if he watches this anymore still. I'm going to go ahead and reveal what I thought was the weirdest and also strangely one of the most dedicated Christmas traditions that I kind of respected, as odd as it was, which was no Christmas before Thanksgiving. So he stayed up Thanksgiving, not for Black Friday shopping. He stayed up Thanksgiving night all the way till midnight, so that at midnight, the day after Thanksgiving, that Friday morning, he could listen to his favorite Bing Crosby Christmas album and then go to bed.
That's beautiful.
I know. I was like, that's so weird. I love it. That is so respectable. Like, that's devotion to your favorite album. So there's some militant people out there. My brother-in-law decided to arbitrarily say not before December 16th one time. I don't think he's ever lived that down. He forgot about it. No one else in the family has, and he's mocked ruthlessly for it. So there's a lot of contemplation over what songs start Christmas and what dates it start. But
well, I mean, you could always just look at the liturgical calendar. When does Advent start? And go from there. I feel like that's a better basis than a lot of arbitrary, times and dates that people set.
That's true. And Advent, and actually Advent has been, pardon me, that's one thing that, and we really are going to trail off the weeds here, into the weeds of some different things. That is one thing that I think the Protestant church, particularly in the West, has lost, is not necessarily an observation of every single feast. And we could go back and forth. I mean, you're Catholic, I'm Protestant. We could go back and forth about all the different, what is or isn't there, or should or shouldn't be there. But I love at Christmas time, the Advent season, there's so much meaning packed into these. And I've seen a lot of churches that just don't really pay much attention to it, but I've seen a resurgence of that recently. And I love that that we're going to spend these weeks talking about Advent leading up to, and it's like, this is I think really cool, because there is, you look biblically, there's this huge picture to paint leading up to the anticipation of the, the birth of Christ. Like, this is really neat. So I enjoy that. That's kind of the last few years, especially, that has come more on the radar. I feel like I'm seeing it in more places across more churches. And I like that. That's fun.
And something I think that some people could, benefit from is definitely something I need to work on more, is seeing how Advent is supposed to be kind of penitential, like Lent, because they're similar in the same way that you're waiting for Christ to arrive in different ways, of course, but it's the two big moments of the year, Christmas and Easter, when Christ is born and then Christ is resurrected, reborn in a way, and I think it's a time where it's like, looking forward to that, you can really examine yourself and look at the ways that you need to spiritually build yourself up, the ways that you need to seek God's help, and the ways that He's calling you to work on yourself leading up to Christmas. So even though it's just a few days away, I mean, it's always worth a little bit of a prayer. But hey, and another thing that the Protestants could take from the Catholics, putting the Mass back in Christmas.
That's where it came from.
Yep.
Christ, I was explaining, I think it was one of my kids had asked me something about, Christmas, and I don't remember what exactly the question was. And I was like, well, I mean, that's, the words Christ Mass, like this is the celebration of the birth of Christ, specifically the birth of Christ. This is where that came from. And, we don't call them Mass anymore, service, but I mean, a Mass is a service. Like this, okay. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of, even just the thing itself. Now, this actually leads me off into one of my news stories, and I'm ambushing you just for fun. Yeah, I am.
This better be Christmassy. Otherwise, I am going to be quite Grinch-like.
Well, we can avoid it. But there is, I mean, Congress is shut down. Thank heavens. Again, hallelujah. But not everyone is shut down. I'm just curious if you've read, because I'm of a much more moderated opinion, but I'm curious if you've read the actual long form order of the popes. This there comes the Grinch likeness, folks. I'm springing it on him. So as you may have seen, the headlines, which I don't think are actually all accurate, talk about Pope Francis says, well, and this is the thing, I'm seeing tons of headlines. Pope Francis says that priests can bless same-sex unions. That is not what I read. And a lot of other headlines that I think are more truthful, Pope Francis says priests can bless same-sex couples. And then there was a huge clarification, because this is from something he said in passing a while ago
in September.
And you're right. And it was today, correct? That or was it yesterday? Yesterday, much more long form answer was released. I dove in and read it. I know I'm not Catholic, but these things are always very interesting to me. And I'm also, as many people as just, whatever, who's ever in charge of my, religious order says goes. There are also people who, anything the Pope says is horrible. Well, neither one of these are necessarily well thought positions.
Right.
Why didn't you go and read it? I just wondered if you read it, if you have an opinion on it, because I think that there's a lot of franticness over it. He's walking a fine line, to be sure, but I think a lot of people are incorrectly overreacting to an extent.
Yeah,
I don't know. What's your hot take?
It's really not as bad as the headlines make it seem. The issue mostly stems from, like, why is he saying anything about this at all? this is kind of a settled question, the gay marriage question, etc. And I feel like the document from today, as well as his statements on this, lead to more confusion than help. But I mean, when it really comes down to it, it's and both times the Pope has brought this up, both in today's document and when he was talking about this in September, he's reaffirmed that marriage is between one man and one woman in an indissoluble union, and that homosexual behavior is a sin. And those are things that he is reaffirming.
And the document today even warned, correct me if I'm wrong, because again, you're Catholic, you're coming at this from a church-based position. I just come at this from a practical, cultural, political, like what the Pope says reverberates throughout all of these things. So even though I do not technically claim him as the head of the church as far as my personal religious beliefs go, there's a huge impact when the Pope speaks about one of these issues.
Right.
That's why I'm kind of curious, because I'm watching all of those effects of it. But he actually laid down, as you said, reaffirmed these things, but also specifically warned, when I'm talking about blessings, we ought not to be doing any of this that is at a marriage ceremony, seeming to be in a marriage ceremony, clothed like it was a marriage ceremony. That's not what we're talking about. That's off limits.
Right. It's not supposed to be a liturgical thing. He's not instituting a new kind of like, and this is the gay marriage mass. That's not what's going on. But if you just read the headlines, that's what it seems like. It's like,
that's exactly what it's being made out to be.
It's insane. It is. And that is one of the reasons I try to stay off Twitter, because it makes my head want to explode. But when it comes down to it, it's asking for a blessing is asking for God's grace to help you with something in life. And people living a gay lifestyle are living in sin and need God's help. So priests should be willing to, give them blessings so they can have God's help to repair their lives. And the Pope isn't saying like bless their civil unions or gay marriages. That's not what the blessing is supposed to be on. So, and there's a lot of Pope sensationalism, and I do think that it's problematic the way that the Pope is going about this, because he's I don't know what exactly he could do differently. Maybe just not talk as much, and not comment as extensively on these issues, or at least do it in a way that makes it very hard for it to be represented in the way that it is, because regardless of the fact that he hasn't said anything in error that goes against the traditions of the church or scripture or the word of God, anything like that, it's being received in a way that it does. And there's liberals and liberal Catholics and liberal Christians being like, oh, awesome, okay, the Pope has gotten with the program now, he's on with our progressive LGBTQ ideology now. And I've seen people make tweets like that, like these liberal non-Christians that are just like, oh yeah, I do like the Pope's stance on LGBT issues. And it's like, no, you don't know the Pope's stance on LGBT issues. He has the same stance as Christ. You just know the headlines, and
yeah. And that's my read on it. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't have a church-based loyalty to the Pope necessarily, but I looked at this and I thought, no, wait a minute, okay, what did he actually say? Because I've seen this so often where the left wants to run one direction. Look, the Pope, put their stamp of approval on this, and the right wants to. I say the right, conservative, particularly non-Catholic elements, want to run to the other side and go like, oh, he should just shut his mouth and not introduce this, and he's blessed same-sex marriages and all kinds of stuff. It's like, whoa, pause. Let's read the whole thing, because both of these seem to be opposite, and they can't both be true. Then when I read the whole thing, I realize, okay, we're in a mix here. So to me, when I see stuff like this is kind of, and this is your, we're going to go on into a couple of other, more lighthearted things. But this to me is an opportunity to be reminded, when we get news, as we're ingesting this kind of stuff and trying to process like who has said what and what that has as far as religious implications, cultural implications, don't go along with headlines. Don't go along with anything that someone else said about the third party. If a third party hops in and says what someone else said, go back every single time and go to the source. I actually use in a class that I'm able to teach every once in a while on finding truth in media and the news. I use an example from a Pope of past, because something was said, it was taken out of context and run with, because someone was looking for a thing to nail the Pope to the wall against, against the wall with this thing. And it's like, but that's not what he said. And I'm not just trying to defend the head of my religious order. Like, this is obviously not what he said.
Right.
This is an opportunity that reminds me, no matter what you see, always, always, always dig deeper, find the full context of what's going on. Don't be a part of the headline craze. Don't run along with it, and just agree with whatever you see, because it is at bare minimum sensationalized, if not just outright fake news. And then likewise, this is your warning as we're going into the Christmas weekend, especially, be careful with what you say. If you want to make a very interesting statement like this, which it kind of is splitting hairs of like, well, don't bless the sin, but if a sinner's asking for a blessing to, like, what are you supposed to do? Say no? Like, we have to split these hairs. And everyone's going to try to take it out of context, but I've got to talk about it.
And it's really only ever sinners that ask for blessing.
Yeah.
You know, it's this is just a particularly contentious sin because the
right. Well, it is only because we're all sinners.
Right.
It is only ever sinners that ask for blessings. I mean, unless Jesus asked for blessing, like that's the only otherwise. But that's as I look at this, I'm reminded too, like we're about to all walk into a weekend where some of us get to go be with a bunch of conservative, like-minded, Christian family members. Others of us don't have that kind of weekend ahead. So if you're going to have these opportunities to have really interesting and intricate situational conversations with people, take every word and thought very carefully. How do I want to say this? And try not to leave open all these rooms for, diverting into different things, because you might have an opportunity to really speak into someone's life. Don't not take it just because it's delicate. Just be thoughtful about it and go ahead and go forward and do your best. I mean, that's,
so true.
That's where we are. So I saw that and I thought about that this morning. I was like, this is one of those, wait a minute. That's not what he said. We should all be more careful. Yeah, we should all be more careful about this. So I thought we could bring that in mind. But now on to the very important things.
Christmas movies.
Ranked choice. We're not for ranked choice voting. You may have seen the title of this episode, which I got to jump over here and check the chat, by the way. I'll try to do this while we dive into this. But ranked choice Christmas caucus. We are going to rank some things. It is a choice, but we're not ranked choice voting, to be abundantly clear. You can go to phyllisschlafly.com/one-pagers, and you will see our one-pager on ranked choice voting and how it's a horrible thing for America and it'll destroy our elections. That said, though, we like ranking things like Christmas movies and Christmas songs and all kinds of other things. So I feel like we need to dive into that. Far less controversial is the Pope than Christmas movie ranking.
So true.
So true. So true. So why is Die Hard your favorite Christmas movie of all time?
That is not where I put it on my list.
No, it should be. No, I'm kidding. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Should we settle that before we move into the ranking?
I don't know if that is a settleable question.
I feel like it is. I feel like you're trying to avoid it.
Maybe the Pope needs to weigh in on this one.
I was about to say, don't you wait for the Pope. Just give me an answer. Fine, we don't have to do that. All right. Hit me with yours. You actually made a tiered list. I did not make a tiered list.
Yeah.
I have your tiered list.
And the link for this site I'm using will be in the show notes. It's a handy little site. Some people are familiar with tier lists, but if you're not, it's just there's different tiers of things where you can rank them, like the top one and the middle ones and the bottom one. And the template for this will be in the show notes, so you can make your own, and then you can put it on social media or share it with your family members and cause controversy that way, which I think is a more peaceful way of causing controversy. It's like, at least if you're going to tear each other's heads off about whether or not you like Elf, that's more recoverable than like your stance on, I don't know.
And if you put in the work to actually make a tiered list and then text it to all of your family and friends, it kind of settles it, because everyone else is probably just shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, think it out ahead of time, and you may come out with some very much better results than you might have. So what do you got for us? Hit me with the tiers, by the way, that this gives us are legendary, great, good, bad, horrible, trash, or never watched.
Yep.
So do we start from the bottom up? Because I didn't actually make an entire tier as you did. I just wanted you to give your tier, and I'm going to give commentary.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, there are a lot that I've never watched that you said that you have watched.
I didn't say I enjoyed it. I just said that I may have seen them.
Yeah. So I guess to start with the trash tier.
Just give me your trash.
Which is the beginning of. I put Home Alone 3 and 4 in there. I know you got scared when I said Home Alone.
No, that's not cool. Like, Home Alone 3 was entertaining.
I don't remember it enough.
Completely repetitive.
It's just like, it's once you start to put the different actors in there, it's like, okay.
That's fair. I can't think of a movie that's actually gotten to a second sequel, a third part that's any good, except for maybe Lord of the Rings and the Bourne movies.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Never seen it.
Oh, well, yeah.
We've been over this. I have no idea.
They got to the third one strong. That's a generational gap right there.
It is. Never mind. We won't go into that. I'll go into that off camera, but I have a story for you about how old I feel about everything. Anyway, go ahead. We don't need I don't think we need everything, but I want trash and horrible, and then let's just hop up to the top.
Okay. In horrible, I put Jim Carrey Grinch. I've never been a big Grinch guy. and I've only seen this movie once a while ago, but it was off-putting, and I did not enjoy it very much. As well as the Jim Carrey is doing great in the horrible tier these days, as well as the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol, which was the animated Disney one. I really don't think that cuts it for a Christmas Carol movie. Conspicuously missing from this list, though, was the Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol.
There were a few missing.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few missing,
which I think is a pretty solid one that they probably should have had in here.
I don't have numbers. I now wish I would have looked up numbers for this. I'm pretty sure that Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol is one of the most redone stories on film ever. How many different versions of it? Yeah, we're gonna you looking this up. How many different versions? Because I mean, from puppets to animation to live action to a combination of the two, like there's so many Christmas carols out there and so many different Scrooges.
At least 47.
At least 47. I knew it had to be an astronomical number, but oh my gosh. And there's even a couple that
this is all movie adaptations. I didn't quite understand my question because I see Oliver Twist as well as Great Expectations in this list.
So, okay. There's still dozens. There's got to be dozens. So anyway, I'm sorry, I derailed you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I lost my spot. Yeah. So those are the ones I put in the horrible tier. Yeah, but I mean, I think it'd be better to move on to the cream of the crop. And it was very hard for me to put things into the trash and horrible tier because I generally like Christmas things, as I've already explained. It takes a lot for something to be a bad Christmas thing, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with that.
I put a lot in the good tier, because there are a lot of good Christmas movies out there. There's I think is a good Christmas movie. It's included on this list, so it's a Christmas movie.
It's not. It's definitely a non-traditional movie, but it is a Christmas movie.
Yep. It's. I mean, what else kind of party were they having at the beginning of that movie? That wasn't a Hanukkah party.
No, sure wasn't.
No, it wasn't. We've got A Christmas Story, which I think is a generally overrated movie, in my opinion.
I agree with you there. It's I feel shameful saying it out loud because everyone loves it so much, but I 100% agree with you.
I think it's good. I think it's a classic. I don't think it's like the best Christmas movie ever made. Jingle All the Way, we've got our favorite Austrian bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, starring in his own Christmas movie.
And the 190s movie Sinbad actually did do that everyone remembers him doing.
Yep.
Yeah,
this is true.
That's
probably the only Sinbad movie I've seen.
Really, I think that's probably the case for most people. If you want to know, there's a giant conspiracy going on out there, and Photoshop and Saturday Night Live haven't helped about Sinbad playing Shazam back in the 90s, which never happened, and yet everyone remembers it did. Go check it out. We'll talk about
the Mandela effect.
I was about to say we'll talk about the Mandela effect in the future, but go check that out, and we don't have
that'll
to
be after we're completely relegated to Rumble. Stuff.
We'll just rant about the Mandela effect. All right.
Tim Allen, Santa Claus.
I was about to say, as I looked down, I remembered there is another one that I don't know what you're about to say, but I feel like both of those sequels were strong. There's another one that made it to 3 that I thought was actually decent.
Okay,
like it was okay.
I don't remember the sequels very well, but I do know that Tim Allen, he's a great conservative, and he spoke at Hillsdale's Convocation one year.
I watched that online.
Yeah, so
it's a good one. It was a good speech.
Pretty cool. What I've got? Okay, this one will make you angry. The Polar Express. Good.
In good? Oh, I don't care about good. We're just looking at great and legendary.
Okay.
Let's shoot over.
Okay, the Polar Express will always be special to me because for as long as I can remember, we always paired watching the Polar Express with decorating our Christmas tree.
I was about to ask that question in a minute. If you had a specific tree decorating movie.
Yep, that movie, and then my mom would make hot chocolate, and we would have it ready for the hot chocolate scene.
There you go.
Yep. And I rewatched that movie this year, and it's just like it's so strange in such an endearing way because of they use that weird like motion capture technology where it's not purely animated. It's like they've got they got these people in these white jumpsuits with these like green dots all over them, and then the big headset on that's recording it just makes for such like a kind of off-putting animation.
I mean, that's 20 years ago now though. Like there was, motion capture was still in its early days at that point. There was some going on at high levels, but it was still kind of new. I mean, compared to now.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I railed on the Polar Express. I don't care for that one at all.
Mhm.
I don't have to do it here. I don't want to kill anyone else's childhood. But to the point, like this childhood memory, and this is I'm gonna insert in a minute here. We'll go after it. Childhood memories. These are incredibly important. I think we talk about Christmas. We're ranking stuff, but like the whole point of what we're doing is, as a culture, we're building out around this celebration, which we have to remember to keep Christ at the center of it all. But all of these extraneous things, these are like great family times. You remember a bunch of things with your family. I remember a bunch of stuff. We were spending time in the family unit. These, the most important gift, I would say, outside of the gift of salvation that's been given. Like God gave us the family, and we're creating all of these neat memories around it. And I think it's incredibly important to just do these things over and over again, kind of thing. Like this is just our tradition. This is what we do. We have lots of good memories around it. Anyway, yeah, Polar Express.
On to great
Christmas. Let's hit the great and legendary. It's shorter. I see it's shorter.
I think that one.
No, you can't move things now.
Reconsideration.
Lock it in. No moving.
But I think it's from recency bias.
Oh well, that's fair.
Yeah. So now that I think about it, it's like, okay. So in great, Home Alone 1 and 2 and Elf.
Accept this. These are good choices. I'm okay with this.
They're great choices.
Classic. I haven't seen, we watched Home Alone this year. I haven't seen that in forever. I remembered the entire thing. I was still just as entertained as always.
It's great.
It's just classic.
Yep. And then legendary. We've got, I'll go from 3 to 1.
Oh, you have 3 to 1. All right.
Yes. Okay. So my third top Christmas movie, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
The claymation original?
The claymation original.
Good.
Certified hood classic, as they say in the rap world.
Is that what is this the certified hood classic? Okay. I'm glad that one of us is here to know these things.
Number 2, Charlie Brown Christmas. Yeah.
Can't argue with it. It's a classic and some of the best music of all time. And also the fantastic presentation of the Gospel of Luke. Like it mixes all of the things together.
It's not too long.
It is not too long.
You can watch it pretty easily.
That's true.
It's not as much of a commitment as saying, let's sit down and watch the Santa Claus trilogy. I don't know if anybody does that. Maybe I have at one point. But anyway,
sounds like a good plan. I like it.
I'm the anticipation I know is killing you. Number 1 Christmas movie of all time. The greatest, the GOAT of Christmas movies. I'll let you see first.
I agree with this decision.
Muppets Christmas Carol.
I agree with this decision.
It is the best Christmas movie ever made, in my opinion. Everything about it is just perfect.
Wherever you find love, it feels like Christmas.
So true. I rewatched it the other day. I think it was just last weekend.
Yeah, it was last week. We were talking about it last week.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was I think maybe Thursday or something like that. Just the way that they adapted Charles Dickens' story into the Muppets. It's just it works so perfectly. It's so charming.
And then Michael Caine gives his Shakespearean level performance as Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my wife studied a lot of Charles Dickens in school. She knows his work very well. And so it's very entertaining for her to experience that. And she
was this her first time watching the Muppet Christmas Carol?
No, this was her second time, but she was just like, I wonder if Charles Dickens was raised from the dead, if he would get it. Like, or if he would be like, this is not what I envisioned at all.
To be fair, most of Dickens' work was not exactly what I would call jolly. It's pretty dark and depressing.
Yep.
But
because you got like kids in sweatshops making a penny an hour, but what if they were frogs? And
what if they were rats?
Yeah,
rats that just wanted more coal for the fire.
So true.
Because their assets were frozen. There's so many out of all the Muppet movies that I don't think were that great. The Muppet Christmas Carol is bar none one of the greatest. I think the greatest Muppet movie, one of the greatest Christmas movies.
The greatest Christmas movie.
I won't disagree with you on that one. Except there's a few other things I won't disagree with you.
Gonzo does a stellar performance as Charles Dickens.
Yes. My parents will attest that I had all of the lines of Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat memorized as a kid, like the commentary from the narrators, which it's phenomenal. The Muppets is one of the last things that I think, and this is here's one of my educational coming out of Christmas briefly. Teach your kids old humor, teach your kids, you got young kids, teach your kids old humor and old everything. You're going to pick up so much more vocabulary and understanding and the power of prose and all kinds of stuff. And prose, P-R-O-S-E, right? P-R-O, I just doubted myself. Yep. I don't mean like a professional. Prose,
you got it.
The prose of poetry. They're going to pick up so much cool stuff from these, because there's so much influence still from like vaudeville, even stretching forward to, you know, stuff like the Muppets, which really had its formation in the 70s, I guess, is when the Henson stuff really started getting big. But there's some good stuff.
You know what Christmas movie was terrible?
What?
That I hated? I saw it last year. It came out last year. It was I got to double check what it's called. I think it's called, as Ryan Reynolds, I think it's called Spirited.
Oh yeah, that's another retelling of Dickens.
Right.
That was Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell.
Yeah, and it was.
I heard it was not worth my time.
Yeah, it was not good.
Okay.
It was not good. It was way too. It was just like way too like trying to be kind of like edgy and cultural referencey, and
yeah, that sounds like.
And then like Christmas self-referencey. Like there's this bit, like the one part that made me chuckle a little bit is you know, and I'm gonna spoil it because I don't like it, and I don't care.
It's Charles Dickens.
And
Why are you gonna spoil?
Well, because it's not quite. But
sorry, go ahead.
Will Ferrell, I think he's like the ghost of Christmas Present in it.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. But like the twist is that like he was Scrooge, and now that he's like in the spirit realm, he gets to like it's like imagine if like BlackRock was like sending the ghosts to make people like Christmas, and their goal was just to like sell more toys. I mean, that's essentially what it is. Which I guess is kind of like a meta commentary on itself.
Sounds like
wasn't
something
even realizing
Bernie and Elizabeth Warren would have liked.
Yeah, it was. But it's just there's one bit where he's like he's revived back into a human at the end of the movie, and he gets the hots for the lady that played the black lady that played the Mother Nature in that freakish Apple ad where they were like, "We love nature."
Let's mark this moment where on Unauthorized Caucus, for the first time ever, someone has said "gets the hots." So there you go. Ahead.
Yeah,
that one's never happened.
It's just
before.
but the one part
leave
that
it to Gen Z for that.
He sees some guy at the Christmas party at the end of the movie wearing the elf costume, and he's like, "That guy looks ridiculous," which I thought was kind of funny because it was like, "Hey, that was your costume." But,
and see, I think that this is, by the way,
that's also why I hate it.
I don't think our caucus audience is going to get super offended, but I think that Ryan Reynolds in general is overrated and can't.
Oh yeah, no.
So I said it. Deadpool annoys me, and all of that. That's literally the only thing he can do. He has a shtick now.
I think Deadpool is like the only thing he's good at.
That's the thing. He's the only thing he seems to apparently be good at, and he does it in everything, and it's just annoying.
Oh yeah, I hate it in everything else.
Anyway, there you go. There's my unpopular opinion. I'm sure all of you will agree with me because probably no one here really gives a rip about Ryan Reynolds. So
Ryan Gosling, though, I will go to the grave for him.
Oh, we don't even need to get into this, you and your weird thing. So one of the things I want to bring, the interesting thing is as stuff gets remade and redone and remade and redone, this is one of the reasons I come to really appreciate people like Tim Allen, because I need to see it because I think it came out last year, but after the success of all the Santa Claus movies, which were just some of the only modern Christmas movies, you know, that were worth a darn because they didn't have to, you know, throw in messaging and try to make cultural commentary. And I mean, like exactly what you described as like the downfall of Spirited. There aren't very many modern retellings of old stories that don't just completely fall headfirst into that garbage.
Right. And
one thing I appreciate about Tim Allen is even when he does make modern stuff, which like we were a big fan, although we haven't really kept up with it. But what we saw of his show, Last Man Standing, the guy out in Colorado and his family, and he's kind of curmudgeonly and conservative, but you know comes in conflict with his hip modern liberal family and always ends up being right. There's a lot of good stuff there, but it wasn't just like shoved down your throat, reverse, you know, conservative, countercultural, you know, narrative. Likewise, when he comes out with the new Christmas, series, the Santa Claus series, they did like a 6-part miniseries. I heard him talk about like, we don't want to infuse this with woke stuff, and I don't want to infuse this with anti-woke stuff. I just want to make a Christmas story that you can watch with your family, and that's uplifting, and it puts forward these good things. And there's just that is almost seemingly gone. And this kind of goes back to our parallel economy talk we had a couple weeks ago. I'm excited for places like Bent Key and some others because maybe yet again, we're going to have this modernized telling of ageless stories, but without garbage from either direction. Like, I'm not trying to make this a messaging opportunity, even if it's a message I agree with. Like, I'm just trying to tell a good story with good values at the end of it. And we're going to let the artistry be for the sake of artistry instead of pro-woke messaging or anti-woke messaging and then just ruining storytelling. sacrificing that on the altar of messaging. Which, I mean, I say that not like there's not a message to tell in a lot of these stories, but anyway, I agree with you on that one.
One I haven't seen, but I think that you like it, is the Illumination version of The Grinch.
Yes, I was about to say, I don't have a whole list and I'm not going to go through it, but I do want to bring up a few honorable mentions. I don't think that I could say number one, like best Christmas movie, because I mean, you want to talk about, there's some that you didn't mention, there's some that should be mentioned, there's some that people don't know about. It's a Wonderful Life. It's a fantastic Christmas. That was my Christmas tree movie growing up. We would always, my parents and I would put on a Christmas. I'm an only child, by the way. I didn't have to fight siblings at Christmas time, so I don't understand these things. I married into a big family, though. Don't worry. It washed over me at a late age, and I understand some of the dynamics. But It's a Wonderful Life. That was our Christmas tree movie that we would decorate the tree to, and that one's just got such a wonderful, retelling of value and worth and redemption. And yet it's got all the classic stuff in it. There's some that people don't know about. There's one of my favorites is called It Happened on Fifth Avenue. Very little known, old black and white picture from, I forget when, if it was the 40s. I think it was the 40s, an old black and white picture, but it's really good. Again, talking about this, the worth and richness of your life and where it's actually found. And these are good, go watch them with your kids, age old, timeless storytelling of what it actually means to find value in life and where it is and where it isn't. But then there's some that still do a good job. And that's what I was going to say. One of my favorites, our favorite, probably, if you're measuring by the number of times we watch it, is the Illumination Studios version of The Grinch. Benedict Cumberbatch, who I love Benedict Cumberbatch, but he came out and voiced the Grinch in the Despicable Me studios. That's what I call them. No one knows Illumination. There's the studios that did Despicable Me. They did
Minions.
And what?
And Minions.
And Minions. Well, that's the only reason anyone likes Despicable Me. Gru's okay, but we're all here for the Minions. But this retelling of the Grinch, I love it even more than the original. The original's fun. Don't get me wrong. Boris Karloff, I think, was a part of that. I might be completely wrong.
Oh, the original cartoon.
Yeah, the original cartoon. But the original cartoon in the book, it's cute, it's fun, but there's not really much of a story there. Like all of a sudden the Grinch just changes his mind and the heart grows. But in this one, you actually see well, why do I hate all of this? Well, it turns out I was being selfish and I had bad memories and I was taking it out on everyone else. But I realized that when you just focus on other people, how can I serve other people? You're filled with this feeling of love. And of course, it's not like they go so far as to give some sort of gospel presentation. That's obviously not there. But it's got such good messaging in it that's not what it's about. When you make it about you, you're going to become old and bitter and green and live in a mountain somewhere and hate everything except for your dog that you're not even nice to. And then when you see these other people who just care about each other more than anything else, you can't help but, this is what love looks like, putting other people before me. I mean, this is ultimately, it is a gospel message, even if they don't say that, because that's what it is, that Christ loved us before even came and sacrificed himself. It's great. It tells a timeless truth, even without Linus coming out and repeating, the gospel story from Luke. So there's good stuff out there still that is being made, and that one also is completely clean, because as a dad with little kids, we're always looking for I don't even want bad attitude and potty humor, let alone just the other big objectionable stuff. I want none of it if I can get it. And that's one of the few movies we've ever found in the last 10 years that's just 100% clean. So anyway, there's some good ones out there. But go looking for them. I could go on, and I'm not going to make a big Christmas ranking movie because I agree with the ones that you've got down here, and I can't actually rank them except for love it, hate it. And my hate it list is very little, and yours isn't awful. I don't disagree with it, but that's kind of what we're trying to do is, as my kids get older, is we're starting to realize how important things like this are. I mean, not that we didn't know it, but okay, what do I want to settle into? Because there's memories that I want to make. Family time and traditions that we want to put together, and it's incredibly impactful. As I look back and reminisce and realize for me, and you're talking about your stuff growing up, and I know you guys are expecting soon, so there's a lot of stuff to build on there, and it's this is a good time of year to do it because there's a lot of really neat traditions to be packed in there. So what are some of yours? I mean, we just went over movies, that's not even all the rest of it. We could get into controversial things like Christmas food and Christmas decorations and all the other things, which decorations, I don't know if you can quite see it, but we've got here at our tree.
Oh, they can
Hold
see
on.
it.
Let me do reverse. We've got our lovely tree here. We have an eagle soaring atop the tree, perched up there. No stars, no bows, no angels for us. Eagles swooping down on Christmas. So you want to talk about messaging? We've got that going on here, but yeah, that's that. I got one more thing. I'm going to hit you with a question. And I realized I made you go through a big Christmas list, but you're the one who found the tier thing. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a chance. And also I look down and go, a lot of my Christmas movies I love aren't on here. Except Elf. I do love Elf. Mm-hmm. Elf is our classic. That's our tree movie.
It's funny.
It is. It's just such a funny movie. Anyway, what do you think? And maybe you haven't heard this. I've been collecting our links here that we're going to send out in the email. Oh, and we forgot. We're in the Christmas spirit and completely forgot. Go to phyllisschlafly.com. Sign up for the email list. We may even send you links to free pirated movies on YouTube. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do that. But you have to go find them yourself. They're not hard to find. Yeah, go phyllisschlafly.com. Sign up for the email. You can share this if you want. Maybe not this week because we're just shooting the breeze about Christmas and having a good time. Mm-hmm. Although we are talking about the Pope. And now we talk about the other world figure and leader, Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously equal status. You know, the Pope and the Don. The Pope and the Don. It's a great upcoming movie. Martin Scorsese, I heard, is considering the script.
That would be epic. I would watch that.
I would watch it too. I'm only kidding though. That's not happened. Unless it has, then someone call me and I've trademarked that idea. What do you think? And I want to close out on this. What do you think about the idea? I've seen this floated. You're looking at my screen. There's no heads up. No, I'm kidding. You can look at my screen. No heads up. It's getting floated. If Trump were to run third party and just go no labels, Trump and RFK Jr., like no labels, no Republican, no Democrat, no party, no nothing. What do you think that would do to 2024?
I think it would hand it to Biden.
You do?
Yeah.
I think so too. I've seen that floated, and I've seen a lot of people talking about how that would be really interesting.
Bad idea.
And I agree. I think that it's a bad. Now, of course, this is what's really interesting. Is Democrats are saying, no, if Trump were to run no labels, that would certainly put him back in the White House. We can't do that. Right. I think that's a psyop. I don't think any of us should fall for it.
I mean, the only way I could see it working is if he were somehow able to cripple the GOP in a way where they couldn't campaign properly and couldn't handle the election. But the issue with that is you hurt the GOP's ability to run elections. It's going to affect every congressional race across the country as well. Mm-hmm. And you don't do that. Okay, well then you're going to be up against DeSantis or Haley, who is going to draw a large portion of the votes that would go to Trump, that will go to Trump once because he has the nomination in the bag. You know,
at this point, yeah. I mean, it's
at every point. It's been that way since.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's been that way since the beginning. But I mean, it's just at this point, I don't know, barring the zombie apocalypse, I'm not quite sure anything could shake those numbers different than they are. They've stayed there. And just you look at the 538 website that does the aggregation where you can just see this giant climb of Trump continuing to go up and everyone else continuing to go down. Right. So, no, I agree with that. And I worry because I, like you, dear viewer of Caucus, and Mason here, we hate the party establishment often and frequently, as they deserve. Very much so. They discuss us frequently. But I also look at it and I think, this is a shiny object that they're holding out there that I know the Democrat strategists on TV who say, no, we can't do that because that would be good for Trump. That's a lie. Mm-hmm. I hope that none of us listen to that and go, oh, we should do that. And I hope that a movement doesn't build because I do think that that's a terrible idea. The party apparatus is so tied in.
I don't think it matters because Trump won't do it.
No, I don't think he will. Yeah. But the party apparatus is so tied into our elective process across all the states. We really do. We are faced not with trying to free ourselves from the party system, but to retake the party system for normal values and common sense. We're set up to be a constitutional republic that is driven by these parties, by groups of people banded together politically. You can argue against it. Maybe we could talk about this in the new year sometime. We've got a couple of things coming down the pipeline. I'll go ahead and say that. Send us your stuff. If you want to. Mason's gotten some ideas. I've gotten some ideas. We've seen some from y'all. I just got a big list of some ideas to talk about in 2024, but let us know. We're kind of spurred into a couple of things we were thinking about. So we're putting it together. 2024. We'll talk to you one more time here in 2023 next week. But until then, don't forget to go check out our stuff.
And have a very Merry Christmas.
I was about to say, after you go to phyllisschlafly.com and subscribe, have a very Merry Christmas with your families. We will be enjoying it this weekend. You can email us this weekend when you're going to reply. Not this weekend. And you shouldn't email us either. Make a note. Do it next week. And we'll be back for it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we're going to cover.
Nope.
That was it.
Yep.
Christmas. You can see we're already in Christmas mode here, man. It's over. It's gone. All right. Have a good week, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a regular. And we will see you next year one more time in 2020.